Jar Jar's Jar 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 isn't just a game, it's a work of art. Truly one of the greatest games in our existence, yet very sadly, very unrecognized. While the game may seem incredibly primitive, it is actually so much more complicated and complex about the true inner selfishness of mankind, thinking of how we can salvage what we once had, and things cannot change in our lives if we demand it to be that way. In this game, you play as Jar Jar Binks from the Star Wars prequels. As we can see, he's in Mos Eisley from the 4th Star Wars movie, and he's trying to open a jar that has a copy of himself inside of the jar, and his name is Jar Jar. The name Jar Jar's Jar 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 is an ironic, heartbreaking twist on Jar Jar's entire life. His entire life, he's been seeing himself as who he has always been, but now it's his time to figure out who he really is. The jar is his internal struggle to find himself, and trapped inside is the real Jar Jar, the one that he's yearning to know about, but he's held back inside of his mind the entire time. Notice how the jar, when Jar Jar tries to move it, it doesn't even move at all. It has no animations because they're never programmed in. This either means that Jar Jar will never figure it out, no matter how hard he tries, who he actually is, or the jar, who Jar Jar really is, was never there at all. There's nothing to find, and Jar Jar thinks that he's more of himself, just like we all do. We set high expectations for ourselves that even deep down, we know we cannot achieve. Everything else about this could be fake too, because Jar Jar is in the Mos Eisley area, which is a completely different planet from where Jar Jar lives on, and we've never seen him go to this location in any Star Wars film. This means that Jar Jar has to be somewhere in his subconscious doing this, opening this jar that doesn't exist in a location that he's never seen or been to. He's trying to be someone that he can't be. And even in this fake subconscious area that Jar Jar is in, there's nobody to help him because he chooses not to imagine them. He knows that nobody would want to help him because he's the most hated character in Star Wars history. He's always been, because he is one of the most recognizable parts of the prequels and is one of the parts why they're so hated so much. He ruined Star Wars for everybody, and he knows that that's the only thing he's known for. That is the one thing that Jar Jar is known for, is for being in the prequel movies, and he knows that he won't be anything more than that. Yet he tries and struggles to be more than that. Nobody will help him though. There's nobody around, and he'll be doing this for all of eternity. Everything about this really is a sad story. The creator on Game Jolt really tried to make something special, truly special for people to enjoy and reflect on, but nobody picked it up. The dude that I got the footage on only has a few thousand views or subscribers, and that's just sad because this game needs to be well known. This is a beautiful, beautiful analogy on who we are as humans and what we think of ourselves. We think that we're more than we are, and while we can be more, we choose not to. It's very sad, and I think people can learn a lot from this game. And in conclusion, in a way, and at least for most of us, if not all of us, we are all like Jar Jar, in a way that we feel helpless in a situation like this because we want to feel helpless. We feel like this is the peak of everything that we've done as humans, but there's so much more for us to do and so much more for us to learn. But we'd rather sit here and try to open the jar instead of doing something else with our lives. Or maybe it's a joke game and I shouldn't be taking it too seriously.